And welcome to the Indica Arena tent. Next speaker is Sean Hocking, and he is the editor and owner of the Karma Koala podcast. He also publishes the Cannabis Law Report and organises the International Cannabis Symposium Initiative to move global cannabis policy debate away from the usual focus on money and instead address the foundational challenges in cannabis and hemp policy development. So, thank you, Sean.
Thank you. Yeah, lots of long. Oh, perhaps there's people here. That's amazing. Thank you. Yeah, lots of long words. Look, my name is Sean Hocking. I've been in publishing for 35 years. Really exciting thing called legal publishing. About 10 years ago, I was living in Portland, Oregon, and I started writing about weed and law because essentially nobody else was. And in the end, if we want to get weed legalized globally, it's all about law, lawyers, all the people beginning with L. We got to persuade them that they have to do things in a way that works for people. Now, essentially, I report on legal issues and cannabis all around the world, from Uganda to Brazil to here to the UK to the Isle of Man, whatever. And it's the same story time and time again. Money persuades politicians what to do rather than people getting their information and what they want to politicians so that legislation is passed that actually works for people. So in the last couple of years, I'm a bit slow, so I worked that out, and I found nobody else was looking at what was happening around the world. So this morning I hear loads of discussions about what's happening in New South Wales or what's happening in Australia, um, but not really what's happening in similar places all over the planet. And I can tell you, I'm reporting on these things. It's exactly the same conversation wherever you go. It's the same people, same type of people controlling the conversation. And the only way we're going to change that is start working not just locally like you guys are here, not just in your state, not just in your country, but in your region and globally. So I'm a bit stupid, and I decided to start a conference and waste the rest of my life trying to persuade people to come together from all sorts of backgrounds, especially professional backgrounds, so your lawyers, your judges, your doctors, but also your growers, your people who are culturally involved with cannabis around the world, and try and create a discussion that allows us to present ideas as a larger group of individuals and communities around the world. And if you guys are speaking to people, I'm dealing now with small communities in South Africa. My dream is that there's connections between a place like Nimbin and these communities in South Africa, and then people down in the West Country of the UK who have much worse situation in terms of cannabis legislation, but it's a similar sort of environment. We've got the technology to do it. If we all connect together globally, that is going to be the way that we can actually say what our agenda is, what we want, and get our politicians to start forcing that agenda within their legislatures and within their government departments. But this has also got to happen at universities, in police departments, in a whole range of areas of government. Yeah, I know it's pretty boring stuff, but it's got to happen. It's very easy to drive people away with this conversation, as they just can't engage with it. But otherwise, people are going to be coming here for the next 60 years and saying the same thing, time and time. It's like, oh, it's really bad. We haven't they didn't do what we wanted. But any political movement has to be national, and I suggest with cannabis, it has to be global. And we have the opportunity now to start connecting people. And what I'm finding interesting, I speak to a lot of people. So my podcast, I've done 400 hours of podcasts now. In the last 3 weeks I've spoken to Nepal, India, Malaysia, Indonesia, South Africa, the US. So I'm speaking to loads of individuals, and they're all telling me the same thing. We need to work together, and we need education, because only education is going to teach those younger than us, but also those in power who need to understand what they need to write and say in terms to get words on pieces of paper through legislations. So that's what I'm looking to do, and I'm looking to connect people to do that. And what I'm really looking for is, I live up in Jakarta. I've come down here specifically because I want to connect with people who are strong in local and community politics, and actually want to do something outside Nimbin and get involved in a wider conversation in Australia and in other parts of the world. So I put together a conference using universities. Looks posh, politicians like that shit. So I'm bringing people in, and I really want more community-based voices to bring their ideas to the conversation. So it's not complicated stuff. It's just what I've learned through writing, reporting, and watching what I think is a particularly nasty industry, which is the cannabis industry. I can't stand them. I have no or little engagement with the cannabis industry per se in any country, because I don't write very nice things about them. So they just plough ahead. They've got money. They pay people. They get what they want done. So I'm really trying to move that conversation forward and find people to work with who are interested in connecting your experience here in Australia with people's experience in Brazil, Colombia, South Africa, Ghana, Morocco, Germany, the UK, the US. And I want to make this point about the US. There's an amazing amount of good people in the US who have been completely shafted, who are really looking to connect with people outside the US to see how they can do things properly or in another fashion. So essentially, very short and sweet. I'm looking to speak and work with people and create relationships that can build conversations. My long-term aim, and I'm already discussing this with some academics in the US, is to just burn the schedules that were created in the 20th century and we write new ones. Everybody is working around an existing format that's based around criminalization, where we should be working around scheduling natural drugs as medicines or freedom of expression or human rights conversations. And look, the more people I speak to in the US who have a lot of political clout now, because some of them have been doing it for 30, 40 years, they're all on that same train, and they want to take that message not just within their state and nationally in the US, which is very difficult at the moment, but also take that internationally, so we can go to the UN maybe in 10 years' time and actually just chuck them out and actually have people writing stuff that makes sense. So there's little more I can add to what I've said, because I'm not coming in telling you that I'm an expert at anything. I'm a collector of people who are experts and trying to find out what people's questions are, what their solutions are, whether they want to engage. So that's what I'm looking for from people. If anybody here is interested in that conversation, I'd love to hear from them. Hands up. Anybody got any questions? Sorry, I can't go on forever. I'm useless at public speaking. I'm not. I'm all right. Thank you.
You're all right.
Thank you.
What did they do wrong in America? Sorry, I'm so ignorant. But could you just
encapsulate
it, and what do you think they ought to do?
Firstly, they need to get rid of their schedule. So, a perfect example of what is, because I follow this daily, what Trump has done recently, moving it from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3. There's three basic things that they're doing there, making the existing cannabis industry happy with the amount of money they've invested in Wall Street, spiking the market for him and his friends so they can collect money on the scheduling conversation, which has been going on since October. They had 3 announcements, so they all made money on that, and then they just made money on this announcement. And then what they're also doing with this scheduling is essentially what they're trying to do is direct the conversation away from what they call adult use cannabis in the US towards pharmaceuticals running and owning the cannabis sector. So it's essentially in the US, I mean, I could go on for 3 days about all the things they've done wrong. They've done equal amount right, but you have to look at the US in terms of its political system. They let the states control cannabis to an extent, and then some states have created an equitable system across adult use and medical. Some have just got medical use, which is a faux adult use, like here in Australia, and then some have just, a very few have left it completely banned. The final ones are just coming onto the bandwagon now, the Tennessees and the Alabamas and the Idahos and those sorts of states. But what they've done is they've created a mosaic of confusion that is designed through the American political system. The American political system only works with corporate capital, whether that's state or federal. So we're now in a state in the US where 2 or 3 government, the administration has put it onto the DOJ, well they're useless at the moment, and then it's been put onto the DEA, where they were created in order to get rid of cannabis in the first place, so letting them make any decisions on cannabis is a pointless exercise. And I could go on, and just on and on. So they've created a huge, complicated mosaic of problems in providing certain solutions for people to access medical cannabis and adult use cannabis. And, you know, you and I could be here in 200 years' time and still discuss the minutiae of the US political system and how it is managed. By then it'll be natural drugs. So, you know, because they're having the same discussion with psilocybin at the moment, and exactly the same issues are popping up. And this is what I see writing day in, day out. It's always the same problems, and the core of it is people not getting together and complete lack of knowledge management and education. So that's another part. That's another thing I'm doing is, in terms of law, I'm creating a knowledge management system. It's all really boring stuff for people who are here to have a party, but unless you create that knowledge management so everybody knows what has been said by everybody else, and you could go to a central point to pick up and then create your arguments, we're going to be in that same circle, just going round and round and round. And this is the problem in Australia. If you look at each of the states, they all have the same problem, but there's no central point where there's the party, but they still haven't managed and controlled their knowledge and then their education out within the party, to the other political parties, to the government departments, and then also obviously the wider population. It's just stuff we need to do. It's lots of boring do stuff, essentially. We've had a lot of talking about doing stuff, but we've now got to you have to present it in the way that they like it in order for it to happen. And people don't really like that argument very much, I don't think. So that would be my answer to that. A bit long-winded, but yes. Anybody else? Cameron, you've got everybody. Got no questions.
What do you think of the changes that are going on at the UN level, moving towards...
Nothing. No, I think they're pointless. So what they've done with that board, if you look at that committee, and this is one of the things I'm doing, and I'm doing a panel at my event in South Africa, is you literally have to be Machiavellian with these people. You need to remove them aggressively from their positions and work to have them replaced with people who are more open-minded. So they created that commission off the back of the existing commission, who are going to deliver a report in 2027 on something. Well, whatever that, and so I think there's 9 people on that. There's an Australian on it he's quite good, I think. There's one other person who's quite good. Otherwise, it's jobs for the boys and girls whose time is up on the other commission, but they want to get a freebie. So they've created a new chat fest that now this will go on for another 3 or 4 years. And really, they've got 18 months to have a discussion about making a decision about, having a discussion about making a decision. They're not doing anything. Their job is to make sure that they kick the can down the road every March. So if you look at all these people who go to the UN every March, they all go there and they've worked on their white papers, they've done all this, they've got a bit of PR, they probably paid their PR person, and they wave their papers, they get their 90 seconds, and all the people on the group, that's lovely. And we'll have your piece of paper, and it goes in the filing cabinet, and then they have to come back the next year with the same piece of paper. And the other thing about the UN that, in terms of this, is they put all illegal drugs under one umbrella. So suddenly cocaine, opiates, and cannabis are all the same discussion. It's a discussion based on ignorance that I find fairly pointless to pay too much attention to, other than to think about political ways to get rid of those individuals and those committees and those boards, and actually create something that works for people who trek to the UN each year and actually want change. So that's what I'm really interested in getting change at the UN, but I need people who have worked in politics or law or administration in other areas of society to say, I think I can apply my skills to cannabis because I know how we get shit done at the UN. And most people who work in drug policy aren't getting anything done at the UN. Every year, you just come out with the same. I mean, I think they came out with some statement this year, which literally meant nothing. I mean, absolutely nothing. But it was the same statement as last year, but with a couple of D's and A's changed around. So that's where we are with them. We've got to change them. And again, this is why I'm talking about the global stuff. You can't change them just as one group of people. If you connect people across the planet, which I'm doing with an outfit called Fields of Green for All in South Africa, who are the sort of equivalent of here, they've created a cannabis embassy, which is represented by about 5 or 6 countries. I want to build that to like 40 countries, with a lot of representatives from the global south. So you actually have people outside the existing power structures talking about cannabis and how they want it to be seen or perceived in their particular jurisdiction.
Is Cannabis actually still going? Their website disappeared.
Yes, I'm taking it over as of next month.
Okay.
So it'll be back, and it'll be shinier and brighter and all that sort of stuff.
Oh, good. So we can do a local chapter.
Well, that's right. I'll be getting in touch with people all around the world and creating local chapters, and then we'll work out ways how to elect or have people represent their particular country for a period of time. Essentially, Myrtle just got too drowned by everything she was doing. It's all in place. They just need to move it forward.
Yeah, that was profit.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they've done a lot. They've done, say, 20% of the work, so it provides a really good foundation for building that. And if we do that at the same time as, conferencey sort of stuff, university sort of stuff, engaging with government departments, engaging with legal systems, I think we're going to start to get more people who make decisions actually at least beginning to pay attention. They'll pay attention more when people like us learn more political skills, Machiavellian political skills, because that's what we need, basically.
We've got 5 minutes.
Is anybody else? Sorry?
I've got a question. And we've got 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Does the World Health Organization have a position on cannabis?
Yeah, it's very conservative, basically. So their position, I mean, I don't know it off the top of my head, I could look it up, but it's conservative, and the way that they run their system is not dissimilar, it's entirely similar to the UN committees. Again, with the WHO, they lump them all under one thing. And that's, for me, that's the issue. We really need to pull cannabis, in their thinking, we need to pull cannabis out and say, look at this problem. If you solve this problem, and it'd be easier maybe that's going to help you work with psilocybin, other psychedelics, and then if you want to look at coca-based products, and then if you want to look at opiate-based products. I think cannabis is like the perfect Trojan horse to allow people to really dig into the problems and solve them. But because everything's just dumped to them like a garbage can of stuff, they can't work it all out. And none of these things are the same. So why would you be lumping them under one roof anyway? So it's a very long and complicated process that people have kept in stasis over the last 70 years. The can has always been kicked, and the conversation really hasn't moved that much forward, I would suggest, since the 1970s. I mean, go ahead.
The WHO opinion on alcohol is an interesting one to note. A poison and carcinogen with no safe dose whatsoever. And yet cannabis is a medicine, and yet alcohol is legal.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is this other discussion between jurisdictions and international bodies. I mean, New South Wales, oh, we can't do it because of the UN schedules. Canada, we just do it. Who gives a fuck? And guess what? Nobody whinged because there's not much they can do. So the state level politicians and national politicians always use the UN as an excuse to do nothing, although they know perfectly well if they did something, nothing would happen to them. Well, or nothing would happen to the system. So a lot of it is about changing thinking and argument.
Well, look who funds WHO. Either the Gates Foundation or the German government dominated by Pfizer.
Well, yeah, exactly. Exactly. Follow the money. Always follow the money. And this is how I started this conversation. It's all about you can't take capital out of the equation, but capital has to be only part of the equation. And in cannabis, as I write and I read every fucking press release by all these freaking cannabis companies, it's all about money. They're not interested in cannabis one iota. And when they start losing money, and it's not so much here because it's too small, but you see in the US, they just move into another market. My greenhouses now grow lettuces. We're moving into the biggest Canadian ones. Good 30% of their business is now alcohol, because they don't make enough money in cannabis, because they thought they might make lots of money in cannabis beverages, but hemp beverages have undercut them. There's a big argument in the US at the moment about hemp-derived THC, and so they're just jumping around, finding where they can make money. They're not interested in the actual conversation of cannabis. But they developed so much debt over a period of time, they got to remain to be seen as a cannabis company to keep their investors happy. Yeah. So we're in exactly the same game in cannabis with industry as we are with any other industry. And people, I think, aren't really quite aware of that. And they sort of hope, just like I did, you would hope that people in the cannabis industry are just a little bit nicer and want to do good stuff. They don't. They're not interested. But if we want cannabis not to be this the whole time, it has to become something bigger and wider. Therefore, we have to work a way to bring that sort of economy into what we're talking about. It's getting that balance. You can't be over here, you can't be over here. We have to, the only way that does it is creating discussion, arguments, points of view, and then getting that down in legislation and written and passed. And then we can actually get stuff that works. And we don't at the moment. So that's my piece. You've got another question?
Sean, Sean and I do know each other, so I'm a bit of a Dorothy Dixon here, but I will say some people in the industry do fight the good fight, just some do. But my question is, what we're seeing a lot with different state governments and federal governments is reinventing the wheel. Victoria is going and doing its own research into driving and medicinal.
Well, that's my favorite. But they just cancelled that driving test, which meant driving a crappy old Renault 4 or something round a disused airport. But that seemed too complicated, so they had to postpone that for another year and a half or something.
And it's a delay mechanism.
Yeah, it's always a delay mechanism. Yeah.
And so it's really like, how do we encourage our governments where we are, I live in a council area, I live in a state, I live in Queensland, I live in Australia. So how do I encourage my government to stop reinventing the wheel and to utilise the research and evidence that already exists?
Well, I believe the only way that you can do that is you have to scare them a bit, and the only way is not scaring them by creating a national movement at the moment. I think it will scare them a bit more as this movement grows, but I do think a combination of growing an international movement that is seen to make change, and then also centralizing information and knowledge that everybody can access, so people can create their own arguments in the areas that they're interested in. I'm interested in the most boring stuff, which is law, policy, and legislation. But I've built a knowledge base that now has every piece of legislation, primary legislation about cannabis in every country in the world in the one place. And now you can use AI tools to compare and contrast and say they did this here. And I think only with those tools and that knowledge and more people, basically hassling the shit out of them, will it move them forward. But they will just keep kicking Queensland is no better than New South Wales or Victoria on this. I mean, I know. But I mean, we could go up to the NT and see how they're doing as well. But it's just constant pressure and to stop them kicking cans, because they love to kick a can.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much, Sean, for sharing your knowledge and your experience with it. Yes, a big thank you for Sean. And I'll grab that so I can see it. I think Jeremy is over there lurking in the wings.
No, Jeremy.